You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everyone! Season 2 of Bates Motel is starting next Monday, and you know what that means?
More painful stab wounds.
Oh, I didn't expect that, Joe.
I went dark there.
It also means another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the vegan correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Now, for those of you who don't know, Don't F with the Original is the show when we take remakes and revivals and reboots and sequels. We check out the original, review it, and then talk about our expectations about the upcoming work of that same franchise.
All right.
So, as I mentioned, Bates Motel is coming out. Now, that's a prequel television series based on, of course, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about 1960s Psycho.
All right. Okay, which is a movie about Patrick Bateman, who's kind of a yuppie by day, but by night he goes in his apartment and kills people while listening to 80s music, which is kind of, visionary when you realize that the movie was made in the 60s.
I think that's the wrong Psycho.
Well, I figured it was American Psycho outside the U.S. When you're in the U.S., it's Psycho, but when you're outside the U.S., it's American Psycho, kind of like Chinese food is just food in China. Did I watch the wrong movie again?
Yes, you watched the wrong movie again. This is the third time!
God!
We'll be back. And we're back.
Alright, well, this movie was different. It didn't have colors. First of all, it was a shock. No 80s music either, but kind of interesting. You better do the synopsis. You take over.
Oh, really? Oh, you're catching me off guard all over the place today. Alright, so Psycho, first of all, there's a couple of things you need to know. If you haven't watched Psycho, you should go watch it.
Yeah.
Pause this podcast, go watch it. Don't eat, don't pee, just watch Psycho.
Yeah.
And then come back. And the reason I say this is because if you're one of the lucky few who haven't been spoiled about how this movie goes, and I mean
it's
one
very
of the
hard.
lucky few, you're in for an amazing ride. This is a movie that when it came out, the tagline on the posters was, "Don't tell your friends what happens in Psycho." Theaters were instructed not to let people in once the movie had started, because it would ruin the sort of twisty-turvy journey that the movie offers you. All good initiatives for what kind of movie Psycho is. This is a movie where you don't know what's going to happen next. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so if you are one of the few people who haven't been completely spoiled about everything in this movie, you want to enjoy it that way. Now, because there's probably about 6 of you to which that category falls, we're going to talk about it with spoilers, because it's impossible to talk about it otherwise.
Yeah.
So Psycho starts off as a sort of a crime thriller.
Yeah.
Marion Crane is an office worker. One of the clients at her office shows up. He's a dick.
Yeah.
And he shows up and he wants to deposit $40,000, which, 1960s, that's a lot of effing money.
Yeah.
And of course, her office doesn't want to keep that money because that's too much money, and they're not an effing bank.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So she's charged with bringing that money over to the bank. Instead, she decides to steal it in sort of a crime of opportunity, momentarily madness sort of thing. She's gone a little psycho, if you will.
I guess.
And then tries to exit Phoenix, Arizona, and go to California.
Yeah.
With that money, and does just about everything wrong and acts in the most conspicuous manner imaginable.
I know. She is the worst criminal ever.
Which is great. I thought that was hilarious. That was a great...
that was good. I was not expecting that.
Then she makes a pit stop at the Bates Motel, where she meets Norman Bates, the sort of a man-child, mama's boy, a little awkward dude. And then the movie takes a crazy turn that I'm about to spoil, because then she gets killed by Norman's mom.
Yeah.
And then the movie becomes about whether or not Norman is going to get away with covering that murder.
Yeah.
And you never see that coming. Like, I imagine what it must have been like in the movie theater before everything's been spoiled to us.
Yeah.
That must have been amazing.
I know. But, like, unfortunately, like you said, it has been kind of spoiled. So I was watching the movie, kind of wondering, okay, when is she going to kill and when is the actual movie going to start? Which is kind of, you know, a little bit disappointing. I was amused by her journey of, fucking everything up royally. But, you know, I was still waiting, okay, when is the movie going to start? Basically,
that's too bad.
I know. To be fair, I still enjoyed the journey. And, you know, the other sad thing about the spoiler thing is, certain scenes have been spoofed so much that when you see them, you're like, oh, okay, this is the scene, you know, it kind of loses its impact. You see that scene in the shower with the knife, and you're like, oh, it's that scene that's been spoofed, and you kind of like scoff at it more than you think, like, oh, this is, you know, well filmed and everything. It's kind of like, well, okay, that happened.
I don't know that I laugh at it. I think it still gets me on a visceral level. Certainly the surprise effect is gone. So when she starts taking a shower, you know it's coming.
Yeah.
But I think the composition of the shot is very morbid and interesting in that way. You know, the blood that goes down the drain and everything, and just the way it's cut where, you know, it's like cut to this crazy person with a wig. It's not actually Norman's mom, people. And it's the details of it, like, you know, in slasher movies especially, you know, they get slashed to death and then they die, you know, and then the person leaves. But in this one, you know, they get slashed and then the person leaves and she's falling and she's trying to get up and the shower curtain falls, and it's like the amount of suffering that comes with a murder, because in real life a murder is not clean, and this scene is not clean even though it's in a shower. And it's well shot, is what it comes down to.
The unfortunate thing is I was like making kind of like the parallel with when that happened in The Simpsons, that Homer got hit with a mallet by Maggie, and, you know, again, he falls down and he pulls on his... There's a thing that...
There's a tarp with a bucket of paint.
Yeah, with a bucket of paint, and the red paint goes down the drain, and I was like, yeah, okay, the Simpsons did it great, and, you know, so... Yeah, it's just so bad that scene is one of the most, I guess, spoofed scene that you've seen so many things go down the drain throughout the years that you're like, it's kind of...
But it's spoofed because it's so iconic. It's spoofed because it's such a great scene in reality. And so if you remove the parody from it, and as we review this movie, I think we'll have to do that, because otherwise it's unfair to the movie. It is a brilliantly constructed scene.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Because you still get the sense of the murder, and without seeing who it is, you know, you just get the arm and you get the surprise of the girl, and, you know, it's well constructed, you know.
You get the tragedy of it as well, because she was probably about to go back to Phoenix and fix her life.
Yeah.
Or not, because she did tear away the piece of paper there. Why would you do that if you were just going to go back? And so maybe she changed her mind and decided to go to California after all. There's some doubts about that.
You're not sure, but that's the thing. You know, she's tearing up your paper, and, you know, if you've never seen the movie before and it's the first time and you haven't spoiled it, you're kind of wondering at this point, you know, what is she going to do with, you know... It's interesting, and that gets ruined by, you know, her getting killed.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking because you get the sense of interruption of life because you get an interrupted story.
Yeah.
Her story arc is not over, and it gets cut off in the middle. And it's like, for the character, her life's journey is not over, and it gets robbed from her.
Yeah. And
you get that sense because you're like, I want to see what's going on with this woman's life.
I don't know, her life's journey is pretty much over. She stole $40,000. She's going to get caught.
No, because everybody wants her to give the money without calling the police. No one has called the police. They mentioned this like 8 times.
But we don't know that at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
We assume that, you know, you're going to get caught. The way you've been acting, girl, you're going to get caught.
Oh my God, she's so dumb. But like in a great way, because I think in real life, a person that does a crime of opportunity like that, they're not necessarily master criminals.
Yeah, but you're talking about that afterwards, you know, when they hire a private investigator to figure out, you know, where the money is, and he goes and, you know, talks to the boyfriend, and he gets a pretty good hunch that the boyfriend doesn't know anything about this. And then he goes to the Bates Motel, and he talks to Norman Bates, and man, that private investigator is really good. I really enjoyed that scenes where, you know, he's like, he keeps catching him in lies, and, you know, oh, well, you see, you know, almost kind of like, you know, Columbo, but less annoying, you know. He's like, oh, let's see, well, you see, you said nobody came here in the past 2 weeks, and then you said last week you had a couple coming, so would you want to mind checking again if there's anybody that came? And, you know, he's like getting caught in lies, and the guy is acting even more suspicious than the girl.
Oh yeah, because Norman Bates is also a very bad liar.
Yeah, you can see he's a great private investigator because he cannot get warrants. That's the thing for the police, and he's just he has to basically be super nice to the guy so that oh, he's a nice guy. I want to help him out. Even though he's trying to screw me over, but he's such a nice guy. I'm going to try and help him out nonetheless. It's like I just love that private investigator. He was my favorite character in that movie. He was so good, and it's like, you want to check again? And it is spectacular. That shocked me when all of a sudden he gets killed. You're like, oh, that sucks.
Well, let's talk about the kill, because for me, that's the effective kill in the movie. Every time I get to that scene, that's the scene that gets to me. Because he's walking up the stairs, and the portrait shot of him going up the stairs with the background is actually a fisheye shot, because the background looks way bigger than it should be.
I know, and it kind of deforms as he's walking up as well.
Exactly. And what's behind him becomes the vastness, becomes his death, if you will. So something's bad's about to happen to him. But the shot is like the camera's sort of up top, essentially on the ceiling, and then you see the door creak open, and then somebody with a wig just runs towards him and stabs him, and he falls. That shit is creepy to me. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? This thing in a wig coming out of the right side of the screen, just running towards him and stabbing. That's it. It's creepy as all get out.
I know. One scene I liked that actually happened before that as well was when he gets rid of the body and he just pushes the car in the swamp. And if in movies nowadays you would just push the car in the swamp, you see it sink a little bit and then cut. But no, you just filmed that whole car sinking completely from beginning to end. And I was like,
and then stopping in the middle.
Yeah, stopping in the middle because they're stuck kind of in the air pocket, and it still gets rid of it, and you're like, what is, it's so creepy that, the evidence, what's going to happen, and just, I don't know, I just love that scene of the car sinking like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a spectacular scene there.
It is, because they have the red herring of the money. The camera always goes towards the money in the first hour of the movie. Yeah. So the money is in the trunk at this point. And so when the car stops, you're like, all right, because the money's in there, and the money's going to play a role. And then the car continues to sink slowly, and you're like, but the money, and then the money's just gone.
Yeah, I know.
Another thing I love about that scene is how good the movie is at making us feel for Norman Bates. Now, at this point, we don't know that he's the one who killed her. We think it's his mom.
Yeah,
so he's covering up a murder for his mom.
Yeah.
That's still accessory to murder. He's the bad guy in this story. But he's so put upon and socially awkward and sort of boyish that there's a part of you that wants him to get away with it.
I know. You see that sad look in his eyes as he's seeing the car sinking, and it's like you kind of feel bad for him nonetheless. It's like, well, yeah, I really do hope that car sinks, because if not, you're in deep trouble. But it's just that look, and the car's sinking, and goes back to him, and then the car. It's like, it's a great scene.
Yeah. No, it's the movie takes so many twists and turns, and it executes those twists and turns without feeling disorienting by taking its time. This is a scene exactly where it's just a car sinking, and because it lets you look at the car sinking and consider all the implications that means for every character involved if the car sinks or not, it's gripping. It also allows you to get your bearings on where the story is headed now.
Yeah. Another thing I like, the sheriff is competent. It was such a shock to me. It's like, okay, it's not fair that a lot of sheriffs are competent, but they're so portrayed nowadays as just bumbling fools. But no, it's like they go to this sheriff and it's like, all right, well, it's pretty late. I'm going to call the Bates Motel nonetheless. He does it, and then they go back and see him next day. Well, now that church is gone, should we go to the Bates Motel? And he's like, oh, I went there before church. He went above and beyond. And you're like, you're so not expecting that from sheriffs nowadays in movies. It was like, oh, nice. It's interesting. I don't know if it's like, something different that he did, but it's like just the sheriff was so accommodating, and it's like...
I think it's the times. I do think it's one of the things of the times. I think you're right. Because, you have to remember that this sort of rebellion against authority is sort of something that happened in the last quarter of the 20th century.
Okay.
The rebel gets things done. The authority, the man, fuck that.
That's
really, from 70s on.
Okay.
So yeah, back then authority was considered as helpful.
But it's still fun to see that understanding. Is like, oh wow, that's so different. It's nice. It was fun,
It's smart, and also I love the red herring in one of the where it's like, because he considers all possibilities. He's not small-minded. It's like goes like it's Norman's mother, the sister.
Yeah.
Says, and He goes like, well, are you sure you saw someone there? It's like, because we buried his mother. And,
Yeah.
in another movie, it might have been like, well, you're full of shit, clearly, because we buried mother. Instead, he's going like, well, if you saw someone, and we buried the mother, and you're sure it's her mother, who the hell did we bury?
Yeah, I know.
It's great.
That's true. It's like there's foul play that, maybe the murder killed somebody else and they took her. It's like he's really considering, and
There's a line from Norman Bates at one point. We all know it's all screwed up, essentially, is what he says, but we go on with the formalities.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of the conversations in Psycho is about that, where clearly there's something off, but we go on with the formalities. So the conversation with the private detective and Norman Bates is a little bit of that.
Yeah.
They both know that they're out to outmaneuver each other.
Yeah.
But they're also polite because they go on with the formalities. Conversation between Marion Crane and the police officer is the same. The conversation between Marion Crane and the car salesman.
Oh, that was
is
the best
fascinating.
one. She was basically like, no, I want the car, and the guy was really trying not to screw her over. He's like, make sure everything's like, no, just give me the car. I want to get the car and get out of here. And he was like flabbergasted. He knew there was something completely off.
Yeah, and he's like, I presume that you have all the necessary papers proving your ownership of the car. Because like right at this point, you're like, did you steal this car? Is that why you're trying to sell it? Are you trying to screw me?
Yeah.
But all in this terribly polite way. And she's like, well, he's like, I have all the necessary papers. Oh, great. There's like, and he keeps trying to go like, I don't really want to sell you this car because you're creeping me out.
Yeah. Even at the end there, where she's about to drive out, and you just hear like, hey, and she just like, oh, she just forgot her suitcase, and it's like, wow, she was in such a hurry. She just even left her stuff in there. What is wrong with this car or this person? You don't know. I mean, the police officer, he's in the back. He's just looking at this, and he just asked about her, and it's like, yeah, there was something off, and they still go along with it. It's really weird.
Yeah, and I don't think you could ever do this movie today because of that. This notion of we will go on with the formalities even though everything's screwed up underneath is not something we do anymore. You know? The police officer would never be that pleasant to someone being so openly suspicious anymore.
Yeah, pretty much get out of the car and give your papers because they have the right to do that. You're in your car. They have the right to check. And
But social norms of the time sort of imposes on them this sort of let's all pretend everything's pleasant.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, if we go deeper into the themes of the movie, that's sort of what happens to Norman. You know what I mean? Like, to a certain degree, he had a very effed up relationship with his mother. He was abused by his mother, emotionally at least. We get into more details of how deep that abuse is in the sequels, but you go on with the formalities. He still respects his mom. He still, and to the point that it drives him mad.
Yeah.
It's a powerful performance by Anthony Perkins, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very good. He's so likable for a crazy killer. It's like, you're like, oh, he's such a nice guy,
You really do root for him even after it turns out that he's the killer. You're like, oh god, I hope they cure the poor white man.
Yeah.
And I liked how boyish he is. Like, he swings his arms around a little bit like a teenage boy or even a prepubescent boy would do.
Yeah.
Even though he's a grown man, and that makes him feel a little bit off. You're like, oh, yeah, you're a little bit creepy with that.
Yeah.
And I like that he is different with different people. Like, he is more confident when he's speaking to men than when he's speaking to women.
Yeah. And even when, sandwiches and milk is what he offers her for her dinner, you're like, oh my god, what are you, 5? Seriously?
And he mentions how, I like birds, they're inoffensive. And, around him are only birds of prey who are actually quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's a nice irony. And then, for in a movie, there's a lot of shots where he sort of imitates a bird a little bit. When the private detective was like, "Can I look at your ledger?" And he gives the ledger, and then he sort of bends over the private detective to sort of look at what he's looking at, and he has his nostrils practically against the camera, pretty much. And he's chewing his candy at the same time, so he looks like a bird about to chew and spit worm for its babies. Like, he's imitating a bird as well in his performance. It's just such a very complex and bizarre performance. It's amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
If I have one nitpick, it's just, just the timing of it all. As she's driving in her new car, and you're hearing the conversation of the boss, where's the money and stuff like that, okay? It should be Saturday, It's like, you would think she would have like all weekend to get away, and they wouldn't notice the missing money on Monday. It does not take like 3 days to go from Arizona to California. So I think there's a little timing issue there a little bit. Or maybe she was imagining ahead of time.
Exactly.
Or that, but I don't know.
I think the voices she hears in her head while she's driving are not conversation that are actually happening. I think they're conversation that she's imagining.
She's imagining? Okay.
And they're interesting in terms of what her state of mind is. Because at first it's all about how she's going to get caught.
Yeah.
It's all about, I was weird with the car salesman. And
yeah.
I forgot to tell this, that. Oh, my sister's a loose end. Oh, this and that. Yeah. Clever way of introducing the sister before we see her, by the way.
That is true.
And then near the end, where she resolves herself to do this thing anyway, it's all about the rich man going like, I even flirted with her. She must have manipulated me. Oh, she's a mastermind. And she's like, yeah, you condescended to me, but now I'm the boss. Yeah, she's driving. And it's like, I don't know that that's how the rich man would behave. And certainly there's confirmation that he took it with a lot better spirit than that, because he's still not pressing charges.
Yeah. He basically, what he says at one point, you don't carry more money than they can afford to lose.
Yeah.
So it's not like, apparently to him, that $40,000 is pretty much
chump change.
Yeah, he just wants the money back, and it's fine. She stole a quarter from me, big deal.
Exactly, but in her mind, it's all like, I showed that gross man, it's so I think it is more indicative of her state of mind than anything that's going on in the real world, if you will. It's part of her psychosis, if you will.
All right. So it was not the real time thing, because I was thinking if it's a real time thing, there's something a little off there. She drives very, very slowly, or she slept very, very, very long time in the car. We don't know, but okay, if it's her psychosis, that kind of makes sense. Okay.
I assume so. No, my nitpick, though, is the ending, the second to last scene. The last scene where Norman is in full mother mode is creepy as all fuck. It's brilliant. It's fantastic.
That's good. He just he wants a blanket because he's cold. He's like, no, he wants a shawl, basically. It is.
It's fantastic, and you hear the voiceover, and it's all about how the mom's gonna screw over Norman and pin him for the crimes, haha.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh god, that's so, like, not only is he lost in the mother persona, the mother persona is awful.
Yeah, that's true.
But the scene before that, where you have the psychiatric evaluator talking about Norman's split personality.
Yeah.
Oh god, that scene, I hate that scene.
I didn't need that. I just needed to hear the guy's crazy because of his mother and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That scene could have been cut by at least a third.
I agree.
Easily.
That's it. Like, I do feel you need the scene just to explain what specifically his psychosis is, because the movie has been so deliberately disorienting through it all.
Yeah.
You do need someone to say, like, okay, this is what you watched. But it lasts forever.
I know.
It repeats information 6-7 times.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ring true as well, because it's all this guy sort of showboating. And this is what I know. It's like, so when he killed your sister, this is what he really thought. Well, and you're like, dude, you're talking about it to a woman who lost her sister. Yeah. Could you be a little bit more sensitive?
I know. And, to the guy who she loved as well, so he's sitting right there. Dude, I'm sitting right here, dude. Come on.
It rings so fast. Like, it's so weird to have such an amazing movie have one of the worst scenes I have seen from that director ever. Like, it's really, really annoying.
That is true. That scene, if they just remade that one, it would have been probably a perfect movie. But just that scene, especially at the end, so it's one scene that you remember, Him talking and talking and talking. At one point, okay, you're just babbling now, dude. I'm not even listening to you anymore.
The length is a major problem. I think the tone that the actor takes as well. I think it would have been better served with maybe a more clinical tone, maybe.
Yeah, more like, it's psychology, so he's not quite sure nonetheless, but this is what I think, not like, oh, I'm 100% sure of this, because, I'm the king of my profession. So, no.
And isn't this fascinating? I was like, no, my sister's dead. I don't find that fascinating at all.
Yeah.
Like, you're annoying me.
Yeah.
Where I think maybe a little bit more of an exchange, because, like, okay, well, this is how we think happened, is like, so did he kill her for the money? It's like, no, actually, he killed her because the mother side of him is jealous. It's like explain it that way, where he's maybe trying to pacify the survivors of the victims by explaining clinically what's going on.
Yeah.
Would have been a little bit less painful, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like a one tiny blemish in an otherwise, for me, nearly perfect movie.
Yeah. I'm just kind of sad I saw this movie after it's been, spoiled hundreds and hundreds of times, so like that scene in the shower and even that scene at the end where there's the reveal as well. It's like, I've seen this so often and done so other times, it kind of loses its impact a little bit. Mm-hmm. But besides that, I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. So you would definitely recommend it?
Yes. Yeah, even if it's been spoiled hundreds of times, just watch it. I don't know how I could have done it differently. Just watching, I was like, okay, this is new. This is new to me. This is new to me. This has not been parodied to me. It is not funny, or I don't know how you could do that, but nonetheless, it's a couple of scenes that have been spoiled. The movie is pretty long. It's an hour and 40 something minutes.
Yeah.
So there's 5 minutes of it that's been spoiled to you.
Yeah.
It's fine, watch it nonetheless.
Yeah, and the journey there is interesting. It's not like one of those twist-ending movies like Skeleton Key or things like that where you're like, yeah, just get to it. Yeah, no, I know where it's going. It's like, even if you know where it's going, Marion Crane's journey is fascinating and a little bit funny, to be honest.
I know,
it's so bad.
I love, especially when she's driving on the highway and all the lights are coming in, and I think she's thinking like, the cops are interrogating her or something. It's like the lights. It's like, no, I need to stop those damn lights. It's like, it is so crazy to see her journey as like incompetent criminal and just like, what is she doing?
Yeah, and so, you'll have a good time, and that's not something people talk about. So even if you watch the movie for the first time and you think you've heard it all about this movie, in fact, you haven't. There's a lot of interesting material there.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time, so I'd like to talk a little bit about the sequels.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to hear you talk about sequels, because how do you sequelize this?
And it's a big challenge, because it's not a movie that deserves a sequel in a real way, you know what I mean? Like, it's a complete story in and of itself, especially since so much of it is about disorienting the viewer. Once they know what the first one is, how are you going to pull the same shit,
Exactly.
There's 3 sequels that
God.
exist, and surprisingly, they range from decent to really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a shock.
The second one is probably my favorite of the sequels. Now, everybody will say, well, it doesn't hold a candle to the original, and they're completely right, but that's not the point.
Okay.
This was made like 10, 20 years later.
All right.
Norman Bates just came out of the mental hospital. He's presumably cured.
Okay.
But he's still very fragile because, he did just spend a stint in a mental hospital.
Okay.
And he's reopening the hotel, and then murders start occurring.
Okay.
And the big question is there another murderer? Because he has guests at a hotel, and all have motives to be killers themselves, to have killed with this person or that person or that. So it could be one of his guests at the hotel, or it could be him, and he has a new girlfriend, and he has neighbors and people who harass him because they can't believe that, how dare you, And that's what the movie's about.
Okay.
And it's really good because the mystery is interesting. Did Norman Bates lose his shit again and start killing again? Or is it someone else? Is there a motive? So you still have that mystery. You still have, I don't know where the story's going kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's still a very good use of Anthony Perkins as this sort of very unstable, fragile person that you root for. You don't want it to be him.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it works really well because of that. It uses Anthony Perkins' charm as Norman Bates in sort of a reverse way, where it's like, oh God, don't let it be him, please, don't.
Okay.
Okay. It's great. It's really good. The third movie is a little bit more slashery, if you will.
Okay.
This time it is Norman Bates that's for sure killing.
All right. Disappointment.
The third one is decent, not great. Like,
are they still using the same actor?
Yeah, it's still Anthony Perkins.
That's kind of a waste if he's the slasher guy. I don't know.
But the idea here is that what they're setting up, because it was heavily advertised as the final Psycho movie, which it turned out not to be, because every time you announce a movie as being the last of a franchise, it never is.
Okay.
But the idea is he gonna regain possession of his faculties as he did at the beginning of the second movie. Like in the second movie, he came out of the hospital cured. Can he get back to that place? And the movie's a lot more about that. It's not about, are they going to elude the psycho killer? It's about, can Norman Bates regain himself, or is he lost forever?
Okay.
And because of that angle, it's decent, but it's still Norman Bates killing people for an hour and a half. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of not the spirit of the original, honestly.
Yeah, and he doesn't have that twisty-twirly mystery thing.
Yeah.
Like, the second one managed to reproduce the, I don't know where it's going, and there's a mystery that I'm trying to solve, whereas the third one doesn't have that, and it's too bad.
Okay.
The fourth one is, I think, one of the more interesting ones, although often the least well-regarded, because it was made on a TV budget.
Oh, okay.
So, a lot of people go like, it doesn't have the flair of the other ones. It's like, it doesn't. That's fine,
Yeah.
Norman Bates has come out of the mental hospital one more time. And people are talking about it in the radio because at this point, this dude has killed a lot of fucking people.
That hospital is like rehab. I mean, you just pop in and out. What the hell? Seriously.
In fairness, he's only done it twice.
Okay.
So, and there's a radio show talking about him being released, and then they receive a call from Norman Bates himself, who decides to tell about how he grew up, what his story is. And then there's flashbacks about what his youth actually was.
Okay.
And while they're doing this, there's the mystery of why is he doing this? Is he going to kill again? And you don't know where he is. He's in sort of a dark, shambled house. Does he have victims there that are waiting? Is he about to kill himself? Like, what is he going to do?
Okay.
And the tension comes from there, if you will.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it goes back to kind of the mystery, what's happening, disoriented people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
So it works rather surprisingly well for a movie that's essentially made for TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's very much about the character, very much. And at this point, 4 movies in, I actually want a movie to be about Norman Bates.
Okay, makes sense, yeah.
So for me that works. So these sequels are surprisingly good overall.
Interesting.
Yeah. And yet, when they announced Bates Motel, all I could do was roll my eyes.
Well, you skipped something.
What?
The remake.
Oh shit, I did. Gus Van Sant did a shot-per-shot remake, essentially.
That seems like a mistake. Hitchcock is not like the master of, he's a master of horror, and the timing he gets, his timing is perfect, and that's why his movies are so good.
Yeah.
And you're trying to mimic his timing. That seems kind of like a big challenge there.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting experiment.
Okay.
But it was never going to make a good movie.
All right.
And I think you're right. I think that's the core of why this makes a not good movie.
Okay, yeah.
But it does make sort of an interesting cinematic experiment in terms of where does the substance of a movie lie. If you reproduce something shot by shot and it gives a piece of turd when it was a classic before, where is the essence? Clearly not the screenplay, because it's the same screenplay.
Yeah.
Clearly not the editing, per se, if you will, because
it's the same
It's
thing.
the same. So where does it lie?
The color.
The color.
Well, Vince Vaughn maybe just ruined it for I don't know.
I think the idea is that it's an ensemble thing, and it demonstrates how movies is the sum of many, many, many parts.
That makes sense.
And the actors play it differently because they're from a different era. The dialogue doesn't ring as well because it's from a different era.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So again, interesting cinematic experiment, which is why I can't bring myself to poo-poo it.
Okay.
But let's be blunt, this is not a movie worth watching if you just want to watch a movie. Spare yourself.
Watch the original.
Yeah, exactly. For God's sakes. So watch the original, watch some of the sequels, they're all better than this. Every single one of them,
And now we go to Bates Motel.
Yeah, and there's 2 Bates Motels. There's a Bates Motels TV series that in the 80s about Norman Bates dying in a mental hospital and leaving his legacy to some colorful characters that have sort of a fantasy island magic angle to it. It's a piece of shit.
Wow, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's
like the Love Boat in the hotel or something. What the hell?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Oh
that is exactly what it is.
Oh my god.
That's from the 80s. People don't touch that thing.
Wow, wow. I don't even want to mention that. It sounds like the dumbest thing ever.
But then there's the more recent Bates Motel, which is a prequel series about young Norman and his mother and their abusive relationship that will lead to him going crazy, essentially.
Okay. I'm thinking they have a set story to explain, from the mother what happened, to all the way there. And TV shows are usually notorious for, oh, well, let's just add an extra season, just for kicks. And then you're stuck writing a whole other season of like, well, now what do I do? So I'd be curious to see, to read the reviews of, all of a sudden, there's a direct drop-off in quality and you're like, okay, this is the season they hadn't planned for and they're stuck writing. I'd be curious, but now that does not sound like something I'm interested in. I mean, I've already suffered through like 6 minutes of a guy explaining their relationship with Bates and his mother at the end of the cycle.
I know, right?
I'm not watching a whole season or 2 or 3 seasons of this. I mean, enough's enough, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, for the record, the show has gotten very good reviews overall. It's being critically praised, but it's being critically praised the same way, The Killing was critically praised, or True Detective is currently being critically praised, or Hannibal, which are all well-written shows, very well acted.
Okay.
But also insanely nihilistic and depressing.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that I've reached a point in my life where my TV time is the time for brain dead Dimitri, if you will.
Committing to watching 1 hour per week and just getting more and more down and down and down, It's like, enough's enough at one point, That's why I had to stop watching Dexter, because, they still kind of made it a little cheery, the first seasons, and I don't know how they managed it, but it was still kind of uplifting a little bit. But eventually you're like, yeah, no, this is actually kind of depressing me a little more and more, and it's like, I have to stop watching this. This is not why I watch TV. I want to be entertained, have fun. This is my definition of being entertained. To me, is to have fun, and depression goes the other way.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think either of us are criticizing these shows for being what they are. I mean, if you're looking for that sort of compelling storytelling that will take you on a very heart-wrenching journey, more power to you.
Exactly.
All right, so next week, we are going to talk about Zack Snyder's 300. Until then, if you want to reach us, you can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at idiomatic. And we're also on iTunes. If you could write us an iTunes review or like us on Facebook, it would help us get the support to continue generating quality content.
I'll be in California before you know it. Don't worry. 80s music, which is kind of, visionary when you realize that the movie was made in the 60s.
I think that's the wrong Psycho.
Well, I figured it was American Psycho outside the U.S. When you're in the U.S., it's Psycho, but when you're outside the U.S., it's American Psycho. Kind of like Chinese food is just food in China. Did I watch the wrong movie again?
Yes, you watched the wrong movie again. This is the 3rd time!
God!
We'll be back. And we're back.
All right, well, this movie was different. It didn't have colors. First of all, it was a shock. No 80s music either, but kind of interesting. You better do the synopsis. You take over.
Oh, really? Oh, you're catching me off guard all over the place today. All right, so Psycho, first of all, there's a couple of things you need to know. If you haven't watched Psycho, you should go watch it.
Yeah.
Like, pause this podcast, go watch it. Don't eat, don't pee, just watch Psycho.
Yeah.
And then come back. And the reason I say this is because if you're one of the lucky few who haven't been spoiled about how this movie goes, and I mean
it's
one
very
of the
hard.
lucky few,
You
forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everyone, Season 2 of Bates Motel is starting next Monday, and you know what that means?
More painful stab wounds.
Oh, I didn't expect that, Joe.
I went dark there.
It also means another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the vegan correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of idiomatic.com and movie critic. Now, for those of you who don't know, Don't F With Your Journal is the show when we take remakes and revivals and reboots and sequels, we check out the original, review it, and then talk about our expectations about the upcoming work of that same franchise.
All right.
So, as I mentioned, Bates Motel is coming out. Now, that's a prequel television series based on, of course, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about 1960s Psycho.
All right. Okay, which is a movie about Patrick Bateman, who's kind of a yuppie by day, but by night he goes in his apartment and kills people while listening to...
You're in for an amazing ride. This is a movie that when it came out, the tagline on the posters was, "Don't tell your friends what happens in Psycho." Theaters were instructed not to let people in once the movie had started, because it would ruin the sort of twisty-turvy journey that the movie offers you. All good initiatives for what kind of movie Psycho is. This is a movie where you don't know what's going to happen next. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so if you are one of the few people who haven't been completely spoiled about everything in this movie, you want to enjoy it that way. Now, because there's probably about 6 of you to which that category falls, we're going to talk about it with spoilers because it's impossible to talk about it otherwise.
Yeah.
So Psycho starts off as a sort of a crime thriller.
Yeah.
Marion Crane is an office worker. One of the clients at her office shows up. He's a dick.
Yeah.
And he shows up and he wants to deposit $40,000, which, 1960s, that's a lot of effing money.
Yeah.
And of course, her office doesn't want to keep that money because that's too much money and they're not an effing bank.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So she's charged with bringing that money over to the bank. Instead, she decides to steal it in sort of a crime of opportunity, momentarily madness sort of thing. She's gone a little psycho, if you will.
Yeah, I guess.
And then tries to exit Phoenix, Arizona, and go to California with that money, and does just about everything wrong and acts in the most conspicuous manner imaginable.
I know. She is the worst criminal ever.
Which is great. Like, I thought that was hilarious. That was a great...
That was good. I was not expecting that. You're like...
Then she makes a pit stop at the Bates Motel, where she meets Norman Bates, sort of a man-child, mama's boy, a little awkward dude. And then the movie takes a crazy turn that I'm about to spoil, because then she gets killed by Norman's mom.
Yeah.
And then the movie becomes about whether or not Norman is going to get away with covering that murder.
Yeah.
And you never see that coming. Like, I imagine what it must have been like in the movie theater before everything's been spoiled to us.
Yeah.
That must have been amazing.
I know. But, unfortunately, like you said, it has been kind of spoiled. So I was watching the movie, kind of wondering, okay, when is she going to kill and when is the actual movie going to start? Which is kind of, a little bit disappointing. I was amused by her journey of, fucking everything up royally. But, I was still waiting, okay, when is the movie going to start? Basically,
that's too bad.
I know. To be fair, I still enjoyed the journey. And, the other sad thing about the spoiler thing is, certain scenes have been spoofed so much that when you see them, you're like, oh, okay, this is the scene, It kind of loses its impact. You see that scene in the shower with the knife, and you're like, oh, it's that scene that's been spoofed. And you kind of, like, scoff at it more than you think, like, oh, this is, well filmed and everything. It's kind of like, well, okay, that happened.
I don't know that I laugh at it. I think it still gets me on a visceral level. Certainly the surprise effect is gone. So when she starts taking a shower, it's coming.
Yeah.
But I think the composition of the shot is very morbid and interesting in that way. The blood that goes down the drain and everything, and just the way it's cut where, it's like cut to this crazy person with a wig. It's not actually Norman's mom, people. Yeah. And